At Connective Peripherals we have a wide range of USB to RS422 and USB to RS485 converters. In this video we'll explain the termination and biasing features found on many of these converters. Here we have an example of an RS485 bus with the Connective Peripherals converter on the left and two other RS485 devices. In RS485, two or more devices connect to a single pair of data lines. When the bus is idle, all devices have their line driver disabled and are listening on the bus only. At any time, only one device should transmit on the bus while the others listen. When a device transmits, it enables its line driver, sends the data, and then disables it again. This frees the bus up for other devices to transmit their data. For RS485 half-duplex, it's recommended to have a termination resistor at each end of the bus as shown here. The termination resistors help to prevent reflections of the signal, which could affect data integrity and cause errors. There should only be two termination resistors present on the bus to avoid overloading the line drivers when a device transmits. Many Connective Peripherals converters have a built-in 120 ohm termination resistor, which can be enabled by a switch or jumper if the unit is at the end of the bus. Before enabling the termination option, check that termination is not already present at that end, for example within the cabling or connector. In this example we also have a pair of biasing resistors. RS485 uses differential signalling where the data plus and data minus should be in the opposite states, and the difference between data plus and minus indicates the actual data value. Because the devices all have their transmitters disabled when the bus is idle, the data plus and minus lines may float closer together. Using the recommended termination resistors can further contribute to pulling the voltages of the lines together. In these cases, the difference between data plus and data minus may not be enough for the receiver to guarantee to read the correct logic value. Biasing resistors help to pull the data plus line up to 5 volts and the data minus line down to 0 volts so that they remain in a valid idle logic state when no device is driving the lines. Biasing the lines too strongly by using a resistance which is too low can cause the line drivers to be overloaded, and so only one set of biasing resistors should be used on the bus. One symptom which indicates that biasing may be needed is where unexpected 00 characters are received by a device on the bus at the start or end of a message. Many Connective Peripherals converters have built-in 750 ohm biasing resistors which are enabled by a switch or jumper, avoiding the need to connect external resistors. RS422 is full duplex, having a pair of lines for transmit and a pair of lines for receive. RS422 is generally used as a point-to-point connection as shown here. Many of the RS422 converters also have RTS and CTS pairs for handshaking, which can be connected if the attached device supports these lines. Termination on RS422 can be enabled at the receiving end of each line as shown. Many Connective Peripherals converters have switches or jumpers for enabling the termination on the receiving lines, which are RxD and CTS here. Biasing is not always required in RS422 applications because the line driver remains enabled. However, there are some variations such as full duplex RS485 where the transmit is only enabled when sending. Biasing can optionally be enabled on the TX and the RX pairs using jumpers. As with RS485, biasing the lines too strongly by using a resistance which is too low can cause the line drivers to be overloaded. Only one set of biasing resistors should be used on each pair of data lines. When setting the termination and biasing, check the user guide for your converter as the jumper assignments vary depending on the model. You'll see a table similar to this one showing which jumpers or switches are used for termination and biasing. For most of the units, you'll need to disconnect the unit and open the enclosure to set the jumpers as shown here. In this example, we've enabled the termination on the receive data pair and on the CTS pair for RS422. Termination and biasing can also be added externally to the unit, for example by adding resistors at the end of the USB RS485 WE wire-ended cables. You can add the external termination and biasing resistors as shown in the upper diagram here. The USB to RS485 WE cables also have a built-in 120 ohm termination resistor which can be used instead by connecting the green and brown wires to the data lines as shown in the lower diagram. If you use one of the USB to RS232, RS485, RS422 switchable converters for an RS232 application, the termination and biasing should be disabled as these are not required for RS232 and can affect the signals. Thanks for watching, and please visit us at www.connectiveperipherals.com.